Hey everyone, with the news of McFarlane's time with DC now coming to an end, that means that I need to try and grab my ideal Justice League members now before those prices rise post-retirement. I've got here today Aquaman and an Aqualad figure. Now Aqualad there is a character that I am very unfamiliar with, but the bundle deal here was just too good to pass on. I think I paid about $15 NZD each for these guys, so even buying them together I spent less than I would on a normal priced figure. And these guys are both intriguing because they both include a comic book, exclusive print too just for these toys. I've seen a couple of these comic included figures out there in the world and they seem pretty cool. The packaging there is a white box which almost feels kind of premium like. It's got minimal printing all around though, pretty similar to other McFarlane DC toys. The back of the box is just as minimal as you could expect. It's the toy and a comic there, and I will say the toy renders there on the back look a lot less interesting than they do in real life. They look very static and simple there. Now my DC Justice League display is a lot less dense compared to my Marvel Legends display, so I'm very happy to try to be bulking these guys out a little. The packaging on the inside features the DC logo, and the comic book is packed away in a plastic cover with the display stand and the collector card packed on the slip. Aquaman there looks all bulked out and cool for the modern era, which I think has been happening for a good couple of years now, almost a standard for his look really. He's got a beard here which kind of looks like Thor, and I really like the colors of his armor. There's some pretty good texture differences there with his legs versus torso, which is really cool to see, but I feel like the torso there looks close to something like a feather design rather than fish scales, at least for me personally. I do really love that bronze-like Atlantean armor plating he's got there with his belt and the pads on his legs. Those are really great, but I don't really like the silvery ones for his torso. I swear it feels like it's the same material there for the bronze ones, but the silver parts there just feel much cheaper compared to the leg armor, so maybe it's got something to do with the paint. I think the style there of having that shoulder armor is really cool, but as always with stuff like that, it's annoyingly going to get in the way of the articulation features. He's got free range for his left arm there, but the shoulder armor does interfere with the other one. He does also still have that same unusual McFarlane movements, which is to say standard articulation I think for these kinds of figures. His accessories are the regular display stand, which is always helpful. I personally struggle with this line quite a lot for standing tests, and his trident there, which is a very thick piece that I can already tell is going to be tricky to get him to hold on to. It's that plastic I don't really love. It feels really weird in my hands, but I think it's because it's the metallic looking shiny kind. I just feel like toy lines never really managed to get that aesthetic right. His hands are way too small to hold on to this thing, so I had to do this off camera there. Usually with stuff like this, there's a section that's a bit thinner for the figure to hold on to, and I feel like there is here as well. It's just not nearly as thin enough. He can hold it, but it looks like it's an accessory for someone else that I'm just trying to force into Aquaman there. Now Aquaman was admittedly one of the lower priority figures that I needed for my collection of Justice League members, but still someone rather vital for that team. I think everything about him works to a degree, just for a character I wasn't really racing out to try and get a definitive version of. I think the colors are great. That probably impressed me the most here. I think some of the texture details for him are a little funky for what I would want going on my display. I think I've come around to the beard and long hair look as well though. I prefer him without the hook hand, so this hair is right up my alley. As for Aqualad, again it was a character that I have no attachment to whatsoever, so everything here was brand new for me, and I have to say, I really like this figure. He too features some texturing which looks really good on that torso. I do know that from the iterations I am aware of, he appears bald or features a buzz cut, so having him with a current hairstyle is pretty different from what I'm used to. It is also though a hairstyle that has been recently criticized for being depicted in media. I think people find that it's just a very boring style and that there could be so many better options out there for characters to have. I think this emblem there compared to the Aquaman one is a lesser design. It's not nearly as cool to me as the other one is, but it's still a nice detail there, and the color scheme here works really well too. I love that orange torso with the black shades there. His articulation is pretty solid stuff since he doesn't have any additional armor plates blocking his sections. Movement is pretty fluid. I really dig this guy overall. His display stand also helps out with his standing. It's the same old, and his other accessories are very cool too. You got two swords there that are like frozen water that's been formed into a blade, icicle swords, and these look really cool. I really like how that material feels in hand. They're using a translucent type there for the blade. It's not removable from that hilt, but speaking of, they do include these hilts on his backpack, so this is supposed to be him without the blades out I think, and the hilts are actually removable, which really helps for displays, but the connection is a little weak there. You can see that the hilt doesn't go back into the pack all the way there, it just kind of sits a little too high up. Curved handles as well, so they're very easy to get into his hands, and it looks really nice. I really like this figure actually. It's always great when you have a character that you're unfamiliar with and it has you wanting to learn more about them just based on how good that action figure is. He was a much more fun figure to play around with and pose than I thought, and I think that the duo looks really great together. The final thing to note there are the cards, a standard McFarlane type of release there. I've never really cared for these collector cards. The front there features some art prints and the back does feature a description on the character. And yes, I'm aware that I did just say I don't know anything about Aqualad and I did just shit on these cards there, so maybe I should probably start reading up on these collector cards after all. And now for the real interesting part, the comic book inclusion, which you can see features the same artwork that we saw on that card. The back of the book there has a plain label, there's nothing too interesting there. I was really surprised to see with this comic that, yeah, it's a true genuine comic book. It's got some creator credits there and some really well drawn artwork and an actual narrative that even features some advertisements. Granted, the ads are for McFarlane toys. I haven't read a comic book in a good few years now, so this felt really special to hold on to, and I look forward to adding them to my comics collection. Unfortunately though, the other comic is, as I feared, the exact same one. The only change there is the artwork. I kind of wonder why the comic doesn't just feature one cover with maybe the two characters sharing that page. It's weird to me to have it printed like this, but maybe that's just me. I thought these guys were really great together. Taking a look at them side by side has me pretty satisfied, but the real appealing factor is going to be adding them to my displays. For the heroes, they now receive an additional character, and I think that these guys look marvelous together. And then for my collection of Teen Titans / Young Justice-like characters, they've also gained a new member here with Aqualad. And then this right here is basically what I've got going on for me as a McFarlane DC collection goes. I think I'm omitting like maybe 2 or 3 figures here that didn't quite fit this display. Basically my goal has always been to have a definitive variant of each hero and ideally some villains, but I think I'm running out of time. Now that the line is ending, I have a little bit more of a motivational push to try to complete this collection as best as I personally can. I think I'm only missing like a handful of characters that I would love to have in this display, the main one for me right now being Flash, who is proving to be just as difficult to find as Wonder Woman was. That's it from me today, hope you all enjoyed this video, hope to see you all next time.